Did you know that in South Korea, young women are quietly quitting marriage? I'm Leslie Dories, your marriage coach, creator of the Hero Husband Project, and owner of Foundations Coaching. And I don't think it's just in South Korea that women are saying no to marriage. Back in the day, for a certain class of women, marriage was absolutely essential. They used to be property. They started out as property of their fathers, and then they were transferred to being property of their husbands. Women weren't allowed to work outside of the home, especially if they were of a certain class. And this carried on for a long time, and it really didn't change until, on a massive level, until the 50s and 60s. World War II did bring some of this about with women going into the workforce when the men were at war. But then guess what happens? When the men came back, the women lost their jobs and they lost the feeling of autonomy. And that's when the second wave of feminism started. And the truth of the matter is right now is that being married is no longer an economic necessity for women. In fact, women are thriving financially. They tend to, at least in the United States, tend to go to university, go to college more often than men do. They are now well represented in the workforce. And whether you think that's a good thing or a bad thing, we're not putting that genie back into the bottle. And what's happening is that a lot of women are not seeing the benefit of being married. In South Korea, they tend to have a very traditional way of looking at the world that, yes, women can work, but then they're expected to still run the home, raise the children, and do all of those kinds of things. And what we actually know is that the more egalitarian of the marriage is, the more equal the marriage is, the greater its chance for survival. Because what we're actually looking for, men and women both, is a partner. And by the way, that's exactly what it means. We are in this together. We have a goal that we are working towards, because marriage is actually a wealth builder when it's done right, because you have two people combining incomes, combining effort, and you can generally acquire more wealth. And in fact, traditionally, that's what it was. It was only the rich and powerful who got married because it was all about combining assets. And this is why love was never a part of it. And it has changed, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. But if you don't understand this, neither party can have a sense of entitlement, whether that's a man being waited on hand and foot by his little woman, or the woman not having to participate in any way. It just doesn't work that way anymore. And a lot of young people today do not see the benefit of marriage. And a bad marriage, there is no benefit to it. A good marriage actually provides emotional, financial, intellectual, physical support. But note the qualifier of a good marriage. And I had a friend many years ago who called them the FU 40s, which was when women who had spent all their time pleasing everybody. First it was pleasing their families, then it was pleasing their husbands, then it was pleasing their children, and they hit their 40s and their 50s and they went, okay, I'm done pleasing everybody else. It's now about me. Can't blame them. The challenge is that they always should have been part of that equation. And women are now not just asking, but demanding. And this is where marriages are running in to challenges, because my personal belief is they should be set up as equal partnerships from day one. In fact, actually before day one. But if you want to make it successful, you have to be willing to have these conversations. You have to be willing to participate. I do not believe that either partner gets to opt out of any major aspect of the relationship, whether that's dealing with the money, dealing with the kids, dealing with the household. I don't care what it is. Dealing with intimacy, all of this is part and parcel of the marriage contract. And by the way, read the fine print. This is a real challenge because people nowadays, they're still pairing up. They're still trying to find a way to be together as a couple. They've looked at marriage, though, as anachronistic, as not beneficial to women, and in many cases it isn't, but it can be set up that way. And if your marriage is not set up that way, if your wife feels like she is shouldering most of the emotional and mental load of your marriage, it's going to cause problems down the line. And if you have children, they are going to be impacted by this, not only by what they see between you and your spouse, but also what they believe is possible, which is another reason why a lot of people today are not getting married. The good news is the divorce rate has gone down. The bad news is the reason for that is because people aren't getting married. Doesn't mean people aren't pairing up, doesn't mean people aren't having children together, doesn't mean they're not breaking up. It just means they don't have the protective parameters of marriage. And if you want to know what those are, I'm happy to have a conversation with you. I would love your feedback on this. If you're a woman and thinking about and you're quietly quitting your marriage, I'd love to know about that. If you're a man and you're afraid that your wife is quietly quitting your marriage, I'd like to talk to you about that. Love to get your feedback on this. Please feel free to put a comment down below. If you want to talk with me, you can send me a direct message, or you can reach me by email at leslie@foundationscoachingnc.com. And the idea is, marriage has changed. Nothing stays the same. Let's take the good parts of marriage and promote them, and get rid of the ones that are no longer working, because it's not marriage as the institution that's a problem. It's how people are doing that. So hopefully you found this interesting. Please subscribe to the channel and let me know your thoughts. And until next week, stay loving.